Hey everybody, it's Matt Hatfield and the coach Ed Young here from High School Sports Talk presented by VirginiaPreps.com on ESPN Radio 94.1, where you can hear us every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon on 94.1, ESPN Radio 941.com, and VirginiaPreps.com. That's your favorite website, isn't it?
Absolutely.
There you go. We're going to talk about some high school football in this opening segment, so it's a trial run. We might have some hiccups along the way, but we'll get some sugar in case we start hiccuping. It'll be all right.
You have sugar. I'm not doing it.
You don't do sugar?
No, I just drink a glass of water.
I'm on enough sugar as it is, probably, so it might be better for me to stay away from sugar. Let's talk about first, Ed, from last night's action on Friday night and Thursday night, some of the games in the area. The big one in the Beach, of course, was Cox losing to Salem 21-9 after they beat Bayside the week before 10-0. 4 teams tied atop the Beach right now: Salem, Ocean Lakes, Lancetown, Cox. Who's the team to beat right now?
Beginning of the year, I started with Ocean Lakes, stayed with Ocean Lakes. Salem started out great. Cox has really been consistent. Go through it all, I'm going to stay with Ocean Lakes.
They haven't beaten a team with a winning record, though. I think Joe Jones has done a great job at 5-1. They lose all those players to Bishop Sullivan. I would say Salem right now because their defense is clicking. Devontae Williams runs for 200 yards. It's pretty much between him and Breon Mosley of Tallwood for the best running back in the Beach District. But I'm going to give the slight edge to Salem, although even the teams behind, Tallwood and Bayside, both fully capable of pulling the upset. Tallwood playing great defense led by the ODU commit Cameron Washington, and Bayside actually leads the Beach in scoring.
And, of course, Cox makes probably the fewest mistakes. And when you make few mistakes, you're usually in every game.
So they're all pretty much even. You're really splitting hairs. You go Ocean Lakes, I go Salem.
Yes.
Another game from the area to check out last night, actually 2 we'll talk about real quickly before we go ahead to next week's games and pick our players of the year 6 games through in the Hampton Roads area. It was Oscar Smith over Indian River 21-7. No surprise there?
No, Oscar Smith is head and shoulders above everybody. Indian Rivers, are they starting to be the team that's up and down? You know,
like Western Branch?
Knights come from behind over Grassfield, and then they get obliterated against Nansen River.
Yeah. 2 straight losses after the big win over Grassfield. It seems like 1 week Western Branch is good, Indian River's not. 1 week Indian River's good, Western Branch is not. They play last game of the season, which will be a very big game for both teams as they chase the playoffs. Indian River in 5A, Western Branch in 6A. And both are dangerous enough to beat anybody in the first round.
Right. We talk about them up and down, but I wouldn't want to play them because when they're up, they're very good.
You'd rather see them in the second or third round because maybe you'll catch them off a win.
Right.
And Devin Hunter's probably as good a player as anybody in that district. He gets held to about 65 yards, ran really well against that Oscar Smith defense. But that Oscar Smith defense, Bill D's got those guys hitting over there. You got Jameek Jones, Kashawn Artis, the DBs with Brandon Delbridge and company, D'Angelo White. They just got so many good players. Maybe not a marquee player, but so many good players.
Right, and they're not going to get worse. They're only going to keep getting better and better. That's the team I stick with as we get down into playoff time to go deep.
Now, Grassfield's a team you got to watch out for, too, in the Southeastern. They could play Oscar Smith last game of the year and be 8-1. You say they'll watch out because they got the Suffolk Tour coming up, Nansemond River, Kings Fork, Lakeland. Those are tricky games. They got to be on upset alert.
Yeah, I kind of said earlier on the radio show that I think they lose one of those games. Who? I'm not sure, but I think they can lose one. They got a ton of athletes. They can put points on the board, and other than that 42 that they gave up on Indian River, everybody's been under 7 points, so they got a pretty good defense.
Yeah, and they've gotten Seth Dobbs playing well at linebacker, Austin Wood, the Old Dominion commit at safety, who's a wide receiver, and Justice Bigby, Darius Hagan's managing the game well on offense. The other big game from the area, so it was 3-0 with Salem and Cox, Oscar Smith, Indian River, and then in the Bay Rivers, it was Lafayette over Grafton, 50 points on the board, a big effort as they defeat the Clippers 50-18. Andy Lynn's team, you say they can win the whole thing in 4A. We've got them number 3 in the state on VirginiaPreps.com. Dinwiddie's number 1. They still have to worry about Lake Taylor and Heritage locally, but you like what you're seeing out of Lafayette.
They just put points on the board. I mean, they put points on the board, and their defense gets overlooked because they put, 30, almost 40-some points, 42 points a game on the board. So I do think they're a team to look at hard in 4A, but I just don't want to look past Lake Taylor.
Mm-hmm. And it's probably between Hezekiah Grimsley, the Virginia Tech commit, and Chris Pierce of Smithfield. Grimsley of Lafayette, Pierce of Smithfield is best player in that district.
Yeah, and I give a slight edge to Grimsley, but boy, I like watching Pierce.
Yeah, he's
except when he's playing basketball against my team.
So those are 3 games to see. Now we're going to give you our players of the year in the region. One player, there's so many good ones, and there's probably bigger name prospects that we won't pick as the player of the year. But right now in the region, Bay Rivers, Peninsula, Southeastern, Eastern Beach, give me one guy that you like for player of the year.
I like the kid from Lakeland, DeMontre Miltier, the running back, over 1,100 yards, might be double digits and touchdowns, and he's had a couple couple 200-yard. He had a 300-yard game.
And a loss to Kings Fort.
Yeah, he's not a big name. I don't know if he's getting recruited big, but I'm looking at production, and he's giving it.
I'm going to go with Daz Newsome of Hampton, the dazzling one. Daz Newsome just got an offer from Maryland. He's just been a weapon for Mike Smith, offense, defense, special teams. He's so good for the Crabbers that I feel like without him, they have trouble scoring, even though they can score. And he plays corner for him, plays special teams, doesn't come off the field. He's probably the Peninsula Devin Hunter for his team, if you will. I just like what he's doing, and if they win the district, if they beat Phoebus and go 9-1, he's going to be the big reason why.
That's not a bad pick at all. I mean, that kid's an exciting kid. First name Daz fits him right because he dazzles all over the place, and he, as you said, he never comes off the field. And he's a factor in each of the groups that he plays in.
We knew about him coming to the year. Military, we didn't. He's going to be a huge surprise. Huge surprise.
That's why I'm going to go with him.
Look at next week's games, Eddie. Look at the games to see. I got a tough choice to make for Friday night. Either going to Bayside as they play host to Lansdowne. You also have in the beach Tallwood hosting Ocean Lakes. Southeastern, it's Kings Fork visiting Grassfield. Eastern, you have Norview playing host to Norcom, who's on the upswing. We talked with Larry Archie on the radio show this morning. And then also on the Peninsula for Saturday, the big game of the week, I think, is Hampton Phoebus.
I think that's easy. Saturday's easy. You can get your GPS set for going over to Hampton. Friday night, Lansdowne Bayside.
Lansdowne Bayside definitely is going to be an interesting one. And then Ocean Lakes Tallwood. Tallwood's been playing really great. You talked about some teams being overlooked on sides of the ball. Tallwood might be the most overlooked team in the area. They've beaten Salem and Bayside, and I think they've won now 4 in a row.
Yeah, we don't give Tallwood much love. Don't talk to them about much. No real one outstanding player. And, we kind of think, well, they're going to lose next week. They're going to lose next week.
And they keep winning.
But they keep winning. But I, in terms of most exciting game, I think Lansdowne Bayside would be the one I would see.
Is anybody on upset alert? You got Western Branch taking on Oscar Smith at Western Branch. Kings Fork's playing Grassfield. Anybody really put on upset alert? Lafayette's got Pocosin? Or is this a week where we get past the upsets in your eyes?
Grassfield, be careful against Kings Fork.
Okay.
That would be the one I would pick if you want to call it upset.
Right now, if you've got one offense and one defense, we talked about this on the show earlier, you got Phoebus as the defense.
Top defense right to this point, I'll take Phoebus.
I'm going Oscar Smith. Offensively, we went through the numbers. You got at the top, Lafayette's up there. You got Norview, Lake Taylor, Bishop Sullivan on the private school side of things. You got some other good offenses lurking like Woodside. Woodside's, to me, the team that I'd say watch out for. They might not even be in the top 4 of offenses, but they are coming on like gangbusters.
Yeah, that's a team that, again, we talked a little bit about them at the beginning of the year. Kind of stopped. They're putting points on the board. They can't hold you. Their problem, I think, is sometimes they make mistakes that really hurt themselves as opposed to the opponent hurting them. But my top offensive team, Lafayette.
You go Lafayette. Right now, I'd probably go offensively. I'd lean with them at the moment, but they don't probably play some of the tougher defenses in terms of the other area teams. So they'd be the one. On the private school side of things, Bishop Sullivan's pretty much a no-brainer, and they could very easily be your choice as well.
Well, a lot of people look at the levels, 1A through 6A, and it seems to be if you're not a 5 or 6, you're not playing anybody. Well, you can't always say that. You've got to look for where you're playing at and who you're playing at. And I think Lafayette could easily move up if they're playing some 4, 5s, and 6s and win. A Lake Taylor who's a 4, Oscar Smith who's a 6, those teams are going to win no matter what level they are. So you sometimes put that level aside. What are they doing on the field?
One last thing. We had on the radio show in the summer, Tyler Tyler, the Woodside quarterback, who's going to Army, as well as the quarterback from Heritage, Jeremiah Boyd, going to Navy. Everybody looking at that Phoebus Heritage game into the year. That Woodside Heritage game is going to be big for Woodside in 6A power ratings, Heritage in 4A. That's going to be a real, I think, intriguing game and telling game for everybody in terms of where they're matching up come playoff time.
Well, Heritage started out great. I think, 4-0, 5-0 before they lost?
Beat Lake Taylor and Hampton.
Yeah, that Lake Taylor went and scored big on Lake Taylor. So Heritage is not. Don't forget about Heritage. I mean, they're a team that can hold you back, and they can also score points.
Well, that'll do it for this first installment of the video interview. Thanks for joining us. That's the coach, Ed Young. I am Matt Hatfield. Keep it tuned to VirginiaPreps.com and the radio show on ESPN 94.1, 10 a.m. to noon every Saturday. Hit us up on Twitter, too, at HS Sports Talk 941, and follow our picks on ESPN Radio 941.com. You're winning the pro in college. I'm winning the high school. Actually, you're winning the pro. I'm winning the college and high school. It's close, though, in high school. It's neck and neck, folks. Neck and neck.
And it's because he cheats well.
No.
He changes his picks after he lets me see him.
No, not sure. See you later.